Now, there are many different events that take place at Conference House Park throughout the year. In a few weeks, you will be holding a very special one.
We're having several psychics, including yourself, and we're going to have tours of the house so people can come in and go through and see what it's all about, and the stories about the people that used to live here and that are still here.
How are you able to support the Conference House and activities all year round?
Well,
this is a lot to support. You know, this whole big,
a lot of it is donations, and then we get grants from the city. This is it's a Historic House Trust, really. This house doesn't belong to us. And the Parks Department. So we do a lot of fundraisers, but it's mostly government that takes care of this house.
Now, the furnishings in there, are they the original ones?
No, they are. Most of them in the house are 18th century furniture, the way it would have been during the American Revolution. In the master bedroom, which is this one right here on the left, the two windows, there's a sea chest at the foot of the bed that it's said to have belonged to Captain Billop.
This furniture was brought in, but probably the furnishings were much more elaborate than this, because these people were very wealthy. But this is typical of how it would kind of look. You know, it would be a canopy like this. The bed would be approximately this size. The cover would be similar to this. I had a cover like this when I was a kid, and my mother used to call it a colonial cover. The room is, you know, basically the children would only come in with the nurses, and then, you know, like what I guess they would call the wet nurses and the nannies, people that would care for the children, would bring the children in. The children were not allowed to just come in and out on their own. They would have to be brought in and then taken out, because that's the way it was. What they would do is the servants would heat up the room hours before they would come in, so that they would be warm through the night and have a fireplace running through the night, and everything was done for them. I mean, there's nothing that they really did, including the children. The children were fed, the children were clothed, the children were taken care of. I mean, everything was done. The family that lived in this house, what I got about them was they were into shipping, they were into meats, spices. There were some medically oriented people in the family. Paint us a picture. Give us an idea of what daily living was like at that time, especially with the American Revolution looming in the background.
They would start so early in the morning that you would probably just dozing off.
Like what time?
Because
5 o'clock?
Maybe even before that, because they didn't open a refrigerator and take out a couple of eggs. They had to go out and collect the eggs. They had to milk the cow. This family was a wealthy family. This is Fieldstone. This was a wealthy family that built this house. So they had people, servants, that would take care of them. These people would be here. They lived originally downstairs before the back of the house was built. They lived downstairs. Excuse me, upstairs in the attic.
They lived upstairs, and the servants. How many servants did they have? And what did the servants do?
They had several servants, but they would take care of the house. They would take care of the children. They would prepare the meals downstairs and bring them upstairs to serve. Their day, all day, the children, even the little boys, would go out with their fathers and help.
Really?
The children, yeah, they didn't go to school on a bus.
There were about 2 or 3 people that took care of the children. And one of them was named Cynthia, and I kept seeing her looking in that window, but I see her right there. She's about like 4'11", kind of stocky, and she's wearing something similar to you, but it's like matches the color of the room, like kind of beige. Buttons, you know, not buttons, ties. I don't think they had any buttons then, but it's tied up, and she's tired. She works very, very hard, and she feels that she's not appreciated or paid enough. And she's telling me, don't say it too loud because they'll hear me. Don't worry, Cynthia, they're not going to hear you. And I think she's from like Ireland or something like that. So she's kind of like an indentured servant. The children were sort of seen but not heard, and they were very, very well taken care of. It looks to me like, you know, if they got out of hand, though, they got the backhand of, you know, they were punished severely if they did anything wrong. They had their work to do, they had their jobs to do. You know, things were expected of them. There's a study desk there. They had a teacher or tutor that would come in. I believe the person was from Europe, and they would have lessons. They had like a study room, and they would sit and they would do their lessons. Children, you know, would play with a lot of dolls and toys and things that were made of wood. The chairs are very typical of them, but I think there would have been a lot more dolls. A lot of dolls, and there were a lot of dogs too. I get the feeling that there were many, many dogs, and they did have some farm animals here around the house. I think they had a pen where they had some farm animals for milk and things like that. Didn't you talk about that? I just got that now. Chickens and roosters and things like that, and you know, stuff like that. So that's what I got about this. They would make their own clothes. There was a lot of work to be done. Now this room was actually like a nursing room. Like if there was like a baby, the person that would take care of the baby stayed in this room. But it was kind of like, you know, because there's no fireplace, so you couldn't really stay in the room. It was kind of like sort of like an in and out room. You know, you would go in here, maybe there was some nursing that went on, some, you know, a little bit of a care for the children, maybe even like, you know, like caring if they hurt themselves or something. It was like, you know, it was like a miscellaneous room. But nobody really stayed in here because there's no fireplace. So they would absolutely freeze to death. So really, the room was just like an in and out room, and you can see how primitively the ceiling is done. You know, they didn't really, it was just like, you know, used for like whatever had to be done at the time. If a kid was bad, they might, you know, put the kid in here to calm the kid down. Maybe they were tutored here a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But basically, it was just like a, you know, a room where they would go in and out and do like whatever incidental things they had to do. But this was not, you know, a room that people sat in for hours. It was absolutely freezing in here. Now this is a typical garb of the day.
I would have on something a little bit plainer. Would be a shift that I could wear either to bed to sleep,
yes,
or underneath to keep my clothes clean.
right.
It would be a petticoat, and then like a short gown, they would call it.
Now, where did you get this fantastic outfit from?
This one, there's a company that makes costumes, colonial costumes. This one was made, but I have several that work outfits that I made that you need to make out of 100% cotton or 100% wool capes.
Absolutely.
In time and by hand.
Now, this was like, what year would you say this
This is around the time of the American Revolution.
American Revolution. Well, I have to say that you look marvelous.
Oh, thank you.
And who knows, maybe you'll start some kind of a fashion.
Oh, they say everything eventually comes back.
Oh, yeah. I wonder, though, if these bonnets are going to come back.
I don't know about that. But this is called a mop cap.
Now, that's a mop cap,
yes.
huh? Now, why a mop cap?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I
guess
don't know.
it
That's a
looks
good
like a
question.
mop, but
It could. It
Right.
was to keep your hair clean, to keep it out of what you
Yes.
were doing, because one of the main reasons for death, they died very young.
Yes.
Heavy work.
What
But
would you say
fireplace
young
accidents,
would be, like in their 30s?
30s, 30s.
So that's why they got married at 12.
Yes.
Yes.
Fireplace accidents because of all the cooking and the danger and
They'd
there
get
would
burned
be
and
fireplace.
scalded and,
Right.
wow.
Or certain things are cooked on a pole And if it gave way, very dangerous.
Oh my goodness.
But the fireplace down in the hearth down in the kitchen would be going all year long, even in the heat of the summer, because they needed to cook, and you couldn't just light a match. If your fire went out, if a gentleman was good,
Starved.
you needed to sometimes take a little bucket and go borrow some ashes, cinders from a neighbor, or start from scratch to get a spark, to get a fire.
Oh
So in the
my
middle of the
goodness.
summer, they had to cook. That was going all year round.
That
Even
fire,
if they,
that fire
all
was
year
going,
round.
and if it wasn't, you weren't
You weren't eating. You weren't eating.
My God, look at that.
It's incredible.
We take a lot of things for
granted.
granted.